vice prime minister, foreign minister, and a justice minister for the state of Israel. She is an Israeli and a Jewish leader, and a very good friend of our reform movement. From a personal note, we had the pleasure that Tzipi Livni appointed my wife years ago while she served as the foreign minister to appoint my wife to be the Israeli ambassador for Russia, change her life. So Tzipi, welcome to our meeting group, to our ambassador circle, we call it. And thank you very much for your time. I know that you are very busy this time, as almost each one of us. First question, what happened? What happened? October 7, what happened there? What you take as an Israeli, as a former minister, a member of the cabinet for so many years, what happened there?
Well, I think that firstly, there was a failure of the Israeli intelligence and the army. We cannot turn a blind eye to this, but all the inquiries of what really happened and why this is something that Israel needs to do after the war. But it is also clear that Hamas is not only a terrorist organization, but represent this vicious, religious, jihadist ideology, executed this horrific ideology. And I think that it made it clear that Israel cannot afford the existence of Hamas in Gaza Strip. So for many years we still have internal debate amongst us about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, what is the right solution, what to do with it within Israel, that's for sure. But it was clear to all of us, I still supporting the idea of two states for two peoples, the need to solve the conflict with the Palestinians. But it was clear to me as well since day one that Hamas is obstacle for peace. And I'm sharing this with you because I know that some of the demonstrators now in the streets are speaking in terms of poor Palestinians or the need to achieve peace. But what happened is not about any legitimate cause of the Palestinians. Hamas does not represent any legitimate cause of the Palestinians. And what happened, just in few words about history with Hamas, in 2005, Hamas for the first time participated in the elections on the Palestinian Authority. And I tried to prevent their participation, and I had this discussion with the US, with Condi Rice at the time, and I said, listen, there is no democracy in the world that terrorist organization, those that do not accept the nature, the rules of democracy, would abuse and exploit democracy in order to get more power. They need to choose ballot or bullets. And I also took as an example, as in Israel, our Supreme Court denied the right of Kach, a racist party at the time, to participate in elections. And the answer that I got was one, that Abu Mazen said that they will not win the elections, and the other was, look at Hezbollah in Lebanon, now they have a political party, so it's containment, or they will be more moderate in the future. And a few months later, of course, we had, unfortunately, also another war with Hezbollah because they abducted and killed our soldiers. So since, and this is something that is important to emphasize these days, since 2006, January 2006, when Hamas won the elections, the entire international community, including US, UN, EU, and Russia, decided that the only way for Hamas to get legitimacy and for Gaza Strip to be open, to be free, is if Hamas recognized the right of Israel to exist, renounce violence and terrorism, and accept Oslo Agreement. So, and therefore, for those outside in the streets speaking about freedom fighters, no, this is a place where if they want to make their people free, they need to renounce violence and terrorism, and the next day Gaza can be free. And therefore, since 2006 and since the disengagement from Gaza, and since we pulled out our forces and dismantled all the settlements and went back to the 67 line in Gaza, not in the West Bank, the whole idea was that there's an opportunity for the Palestinians to show that in this tiny place, but yet they can build a new Singapore and build greenhouses, and what we got in return was the green flag of Hamas. And since then, the Israeli strategy was to act against them as a terrorist organization, and we had a few rounds of military operation. I was in the Israeli cabinet in Kastled and later in Tzuk Eitan, and what we try to achieve is deterrence or reaching a kind of a ceasefire that led later to another round, another attacks on Israeli civilians, because this is the nature of this organization. So the policy in Israel, since we had this internal dispute, we didn't have a real strategy toward Gaza as such. I believe that Israel needs to act on two sides of the same equation. On one hand, to act against terror, to weaken Hamas militarily, and simultaneously to strengthen the legitimate Palestinian Authority and follow it to reach peace with. So it was a matter of process. But others in Israel, including Netanyahu, thought that the right thing to do is to keep Hamas weak, but to keep in Gaza while not strengthening the Palestinian Authority. And this is where we are now. So just last sentence is that when it comes to the need to act against Hamas, to topple them as a regime, to dismantle their military capability, there is no dispute in Israel. We all support it, left and right and everybody. Not just because of this horrific attack, but because this is really a need.
You talked about the concept, and now the concept of the Israeli government is to kick out Hamas from Gaza or to
yes, and we all support it.
But it's possible. I mean, any chance to achieve this goal in this point, as somebody that sits at the cabinet, knows what is going on, the power of this organization, the situation in the field among the Palestinians in Gaza that grew up in the last 20 years under Hamas, the whole education system, the whole world there is
the education system is, of course, UNRWA, that is also keeping the status of refugees for years now, for 4 generations, but that's another problem. Okay. Frankly, I hope that usually we tend to speak in terms of slogans that Hamas, it's the end of Hamas, victory means that Hamas would not exist in Gaza Strip anymore, and so on. And the real question is, what are the military steps to do so? And it's clear that it will take time. It's not going to be 6 days war, not even other operations that we are used to. So it takes time, and this is something that we need to understand and accept. And secondly, not less important, and the Israeli army will act against their military capability, that's for sure, and against their leadership, and hope that it will be successful with less injuries within the Israeli forces. Unfortunately, we just heard this is the first day of the ground operation, and we already have casualties. But the real question, I believe, is the day after, because assuming that we succeed, and we succeeded in dismantle their military capability, and then this will force the Israeli government to decide, okay, and now what? Should we stay in Gaza Strip and control Gaza, reoccupy Gaza? No way, we don't want to be there. I mean, most of Israelis don't want to reoccupy Gaza. There are some really minority that are thinking about Gush Katif again, but this is not the government policy and will not be the government policy. So Israel doesn't want to reoccupy Gaza. Hamas is not an option. And therefore, it's a bizarre situation in which nobody wants to take Gaza. I mean, I'm thinking about, publishing an advertisement of wanted somebody that is not a terrorist organization and willing to take over Gaza. In the past, during the last military operation, I tried to bring the PA, the Legitimate Palestinian Authority, in. And the answer usually was, one, we don't want to be after your military operation because it looks like we are cooperating with you. And secondly, they are too weak, because when Hamas took over Gaza Strip, they killed Fatah members, hundreds
of them.
So the idea, I think that the best idea, I'm sharing with you my views, but I think that the best idea is to work now with the international stakeholders, of course, the United States, but also Egypt and the Palestinian Authority, and maybe Gulf states, and maybe Saudi can be also, it's a new player, and maybe we can turn it into something positive, because trust me, the Arab countries in the region, I think that if they wish for something, is that Israel will destroy Hamas completely. Because it's a problem for them as well, all these Muslim brotherhoods within their own countries. And especially when Iran is playing the role of supporting Hamas. So I think that we need to have a plan for the day after of maybe an interim period that the PA would enter at first to the passages, international or maybe UN, not forces, but organization will make the reconstruction, but money that would not be transferred to Hamas or their, I don't know what will remain from Hamas. It's going to be quite complicated, but if this is the situation, so we have at first dismantling not the political power, because it's an idea, because they are being supported by the people, but they cannot rule, they cannot stay as a regime. And therefore we need to act together, and it's not less important, because I don't want that Israel will be in a situation in which, okay, we achieved the military goals, and then we cannot just leave a chaos, because other terrorists, whether it's Jihad or Hamas, will take over. So it's a matter of a process, and it will take a long time.
We'll go back to that later, but in this point, still in Gaza, the question that the cabinet needs to discuss and to make a decision, the hostages vis-a-vis the operation. You were there. I mean, you sat next to that table. How you take that decision, that type of a decision, and what is your?
It's a completely different situation. You know, as a minister in the Israeli cabinet, the decisions on hostages are maybe the most difficult decisions to make. And
the numbers now.
Exactly. This is exactly what I wanted to say, because I didn't vote for the release of Gilad Shalit, frankly. I didn't want to release all these terrorists to Hamas. And I didn't vote for the release of Tenenbaum to Hezbollah, if we recall in the past. But this is a completely different situation. And I think, I hope, it's not the choice. I don't think that the Israeli cabinet is facing a decision of choose one of the other, whether to release the prisoners or to win this war against Hamas, the hostages. And I think that they will try to do both step by step. I mean, the release of one of those was really a kind of, I mean, it just one out of 240, but yet
it touched everybody here in Israel.
Yes, and it reminded us, you know, what IDF can do, and it gave us hope. It brought us back to the core of, you know, fighting. Yes, and I hope that Hamas understands that holding all these babies, and I mean, they are holding 9-month-old babies. And children and the women, I think that I hope that they understand that this is a burden, that this makes it, it portrays them as they are, but they are trying now to have another, a better face to the international community. And I think that also Qatar understands that this is something that they cannot support in the future. I mean, Qatar is playing different roles and different games in different fields, but yes, this is something that I think will be problematic for them. And therefore, if I recall, I think that today the spokesperson of Hamas said something about releasing those that are holding a foreign and non-Israeli passport in the next few days, or something like this. It was just a few minutes before I entered Zoom. And I think that they will try to make a deal with the women and children. But Israel will not hold its fire or will not stop the military operation. I cannot tell what about a small ceasefire just for this purpose. But Israel cannot say, okay, you did this massacre, we killed some of Hamas or destroyed some of your headquarters, but now, and give us back our citizens and everything is fine. We cannot. This is not the situation anymore. This is something that could happen in the past, but not now. And therefore, it's a very, very difficult, complicated decisions ahead, really.
Tzipi, let's go to the north, to Hezbollah. You served as a foreign minister while we had a war with them. We achieved some kind of agreement in the United Nations.
Yes.
One of the mastermind that prepared that agreement. What is going on there in that field? There's another war in the horizon. There's a chance.
It looks like, Lisa, it looks like I can share with you my assessment. It's not better than yours, but it looks like. And I think that Hamas is surprised by the fact that Hezbollah is not starting another war from the north. I think that this was their expectation. And it looks like Iran is playing a kind of ping pong with Israel. They are targeting some, we are targeting theirs, and they have some casualties on the Lebanese and Hezbollah side. It looks like Iran didn't decide, since these are the proxies of Iran, and we need now to add also the Houthi in Yemen. This is new to us, you know, that they targeted Eilat and tried. So it looks like, for now, Iran doesn't want to open new real fronts up in the north, but this will pose a real question for the future, because, and this is also about security concept. can we live in a situation where on the other side of the border they are having more and more arms that can turn against the Israeli civilians, not only in the north, by the way. Hezbollah has missiles that can cover Israel. Or whether we should do something about it before they attack us. But for now, Israel is focused on Gaza Strip and Hamas, and so if it's not the intention of Israel and not the intention of Iran, so let's hope that it will stay, that we can continue enacting against Hamas without opening a new front.
Let's talk a little bit about the American involvement in the event. Do you surprised from the way that the President Biden acts, the involvement, the fact that there are two carriers here in the Middle East? And, well, he was blamed by many Israelis, by the Israeli Prime Minister as a weak,
No, listen, I know, okay. But the way he was described in Israel, you know, when he was elected, I also was interviewed, I think it was CNN, and I was asked, okay, what do you say about the results of the elections in the US? And I said, I'm quite happy that the free world has a mensch as a leader. And I know Biden for many years, and it was clear to me that he will show all the empathy, really, of the world as this is the kind of man he is. But I don't want to say surprise, but it was a good surprise to see that it's not just showing empathy, it's an understanding that the US cannot leave the Middle East. Frankly, the US, in a way, left a vacuum in the Middle East, and others, there is no vacuum in the world. So Russia and China entered. And I think that it was a combination. Right now, Blinken, I think in the Congress, just shows the horrors that he saw in the videos of the attack. And I think that it was a combination of understanding the nature of this evil, plus an understanding that Iran, that the US cannot give the axis of Iran, China, Russia to control the region. And I also believe that it's very important to the US to show the Saudis and other Gulf states that when you're being supported by the United States, it means something. Because part of the frustration of Gulf states against the US, and it's not specifically this administration, that in the end of the day, and even if you recall, of course, Obama red line with the Assad in Syria, and later, well, he crossed the red line and nothing happened. So I think that this is a strategic decision that is not connected only to Israel, but Israel is part of it. That what they are doing is not only sharing empathy, but also show deterrence to Iran. And the Eisenhower is not in the Mediterranean; it's in the Persian Sea. It's on the other side. It's a message, really a very strong message to Iran: don't try us. And it's very important. It is very important for Israel. Of course, the Israelis now understand what does it mean when we were speaking about the friendship with the US, that it's important, and to have this kind of strength and military cooperation with the democratic administration is something that is beyond the expectation of some of the Israelis.
Tzipi, do you see American involvement if Israel will be attacked from the north by Hezbollah?
Listen, I know that the US sent these aircraft carriers. I think that this is the message. What will be the involvement? It's the US decision. But Israel, always we say that we will defend it ourselves by ourselves, and all these years, Israel never asked, and we do not ask today for boots on the ground in Israel. We don't want any American mother to cry over her child who is serving in the army or was killed for our interest. But I think that now it's bigger than Israel. It's bigger than the Israeli interest. It's regional. It's global. It's a dramatic moment.
And a word about Putin involvement, the way that he, for a while, he was our friend. The relationship between Israel and Russia was quite, okay. What happened there?
I think that he understands it's the mirror picture of the US. Mm-hmm. If the US decides to step in because they understand that they cannot leave the region for Iran, China, and Russia. So Russia says, okay, it's not, as I said before, it's a game. It's not just the relations with Israel. Secondly, that Israel, I thought that Israel should support the Ukraine without any question since day one. But at first, Israel tried to act in a more polite manner toward Russia. But I think that he made this decision right now. And frankly, the invasion to Ukraine is a kind of saying I'm not part of the international rules or something like this, even before it comes to the situation in Israel. And I must say that I shared with you that in 2006, the quartet said that these are the parameters in order to get legitimacy, but two leaders invited Hamas leaders to a visit. One was Erdogan, not now, in 2006. And the other was Putin. And when at the time, and when I said, I spoke with Levov at the time, and I said, how come, why you're doing this? So he said, yes, it was free. No, he was joking about the US democratization process. They were elected in free and fair elections or something like this. So I'm not that surprised from that.
Tzipi, let's talk a little bit about the civil society in Israel. We saw the emerge of the civil society in the last few months, demonstration for the Israeli democracy, changing the government, against changing the constitution, the laws in Israel. What do you see since the war started? The feeling?
It's amazing.
Something that we need to explain to our crowd, our community.
Meir, it's amazing. I mean, one day, October, this horrific day, but the same day, you saw the entire Israeli society being united. We put everything aside. The government, in a way, failed in I'm not speaking just about the army the first day, but also helping the citizens, creating something, because it was not prepared to this magnitude of problems. But since the protesters were well organized and with very good will, and some of them also were officers in the army and so on. So the next day, they turned all the efforts and energy to help those who need to leave their villages, help them, help. Unfortunately, this is something that quite ashamed to say. I don't know why we need to help the soldiers with with things that they need for the army, but this is what happened. And thank you, and the support coming from.
It's not that it's so needed. It's act of love.
Sorry?
It's act of love. I think that most of the equipment is there. It's act of love. We want to give more than sometimes they.
I hope so. But it is amazing, and thank you. I mean, the support coming from the Jewish community was really so touching and important. And in a way, what happened within Israel is that Israel now is united. By the way, we have this dispute, it's not over, about the nature of Israel as a democracy, what to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Not everything disappeared, but for now we are focused on winning this war, and we are united. And I think that also between Israel and the world Jewry, it's also clear, since we have since anti-Semitism is rising its ugly head in different, but in a way, we feel more connected also. I would like to share my concern about the relations between Jews and Arabs within Israel. It's becoming very sensitive. And the message coming from one of the Arab leaders of Mansour Abbas was very important, saying we should work together. And in fact, we didn't see what we saw in the past in what we call the mixed cities in Israel, violence between Jews and Arabs. And I hope that the frustration and rage and hate will not turn to violence between minority and majority within Israel. And that the situation in the West Bank will be, it's not really calm, but will not be ignited.
We still see the Jewish hooligans.
Yes, and the role of the government is to reduce the tension. And we cannot afford this. I mean, we can't afford it regardless of the situation in Gaza, but especially now.
You mentioned earlier the American Jewry, the world Jewry. Can you talk a little bit about your feeling as an Israeli to see anti-Semitism
I'm sure.
a wave that
I am.
What can you tell to those people, to the calls that they hear in the universities, in their cities?
I am shocked, frankly. I mean, you know, after I quit politics, I was a few months at Harvard, and I am giving speeches in different universities. So I saw that there are some cells of pro-Palestinians, but the discussion was about the conflict. It was not about Israel as such, or not. It was not. I prefer to say that, okay, criticism on any Israeli government policy is something that we can deal with. I mean, as the leader of the opposition, I criticize my own government, so that's fine. If you want to speak what the right thing to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, let's speak about it. That's okay. But then I learned also a few years ago that, and I remember this conversation with the Hillel student, and she told me, listen, I'm a liberal, and my friend said that if I want to be their friend, I cannot support Israel. So I understood at the time, yes, to being a vegan or supporting this and supporting Israel doesn't go together. Okay, so it's not, but it turned into something. I mean, when I see the hatred it's about Jews, it's about the state, the existence of the state of Israel, calling that, how do I say, between the river and the sea, Palestine will
Palestine from the river to the sea. That is
it means, in the past, we had this discussion about two states for two peoples living side by side in peace and security. This is not anymore the argument. It's about, it's about, again, it's exactly what the BDS tried to do, and this exactly represents Hamas ideology: no Jews between Jordan River and Mediterranean Sea. And it's a combination of hatred, of ignorance. You know, I'm trying usually to explain the history, and nobody is listening. And it's frightening, I mean, to hear from friends of mine who live outside of Israel that the situation that they are afraid to go with their children to places where there are demonstrators and so on. It's really something that I didn't expect something like this, and I'm not naive. I mean, I knew that there is anti-Semitism in different parts of the world, but not like this. Without any understanding, without thinking, it's really pure hatred that, you know, turn into.
Tzipi, last question from.
But it's not less. It's very interesting for me to hear what you say about it.
Yeah, we'll give to the community in a second chance to talk to you, to ask questions. My last question is, the days after the war, you talk about Gaza. Let's talk a minute about Israel. Any chance that Netanyahu will stay? What will be the political structure in Israel after the war?
No.
What is your assessment?
I hope that I'm not mixing hopes with the real assessment. But it's over.
Edith, questions? It is running the Q&R.
Thank you. So we have a few questions, and I'm going to try to synopsize some of them and condense some of them. What do you think about the way Israel has managed the siege? Are you concerned about the optics, long-term, resulting civilian deaths? What and how can Israel present itself, react differently, promote it differently?
So let's start with this siege, because I'm really frustrated. As I said before, we left Gaza Strip. We dismantled the settlements. There is no Israeli soldier within Gaza Strip for about 20 years. The only reason for the siege was not against the population in Gaza, but because Hamas used it in order to rearm and to use its arms against Israel. And therefore, it was not a siege against the people, but all the goods that passed through the passages in Israel were inspected to see that Hamas is not using it, and he used it, and is using it. When people are asking us about fuel, the fuel is not for now they are saying they need fuel for the hospital. But Hamas is taking this fuel. He stole fuel from UNRWA to use it for the tunnels, because the only way for them to survive in the tunnels is by using this fuel. There was an interview with the Hamas member, and so he was asked why the tunnels are not being used to give a safe shelter to the civilians, and he said, "What do you mean? These tunnels are for us Hamas fighters to hide. It's not for the civilians." And therefore, our responsibility, according to the international law, we have no responsibility in accordance to the international law to supply something to an enemy country, or to supply something that can be used against us. What we need to do in accordance to the international law is to enable others to supply the humanitarian aid to the population, and this is what we are doing through Rafah crossing through Egypt. But just before the attack, you know that Israel, I'm not even speaking about the money that came from Qatar. Israel opened its doors to 20,000 workers in Israel. And now we discovered that these workers were the intelligence. They worked in the villages and they told where the family lives. And this was the information, the intelligence that they used in order to kill us. So any connection, those that are thinking that there is any connection, there is no connection. There is no connection. As I said before, if they want to open the siege, all that was needed is to renounce violence and terrorism. And therefore now, yes, I know that the situation in Gaza is problematic. It is being supervised by Israel and other international organizations. Israel is working with the international organization. Usually it's quite a mystery how they don't have bread, but yet they have missiles, endless number of missiles that continue to attack us. And
3 times today in Tel Aviv.
Sorry?
3 times today in Tel Aviv. You know.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had 3. No, we had
yes,
3.
I remember 2.
In Tel Aviv.
Maybe I missed one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
I moved between Tel Aviv and Ramat Gan. Maybe I got the one from Ramat Gan.
yes, it's a different area.
Different
so
fires.
I had twice. Yes, I had twice. And we are being asked. People are saying, okay, they killed 1,400, they kidnapped 240. Now you're killing thousands and thousands, including children and so on. So you got your revenge, stop it. But this is not about revenge. And I would not accept any equivalency between these terrorists and between what we are doing. And there is no democracy in the world that makes this equivalence between a murderer or somebody that kills somebody in a car accident. I mean, the loss of life for the families is horrific. It's very sad, regardless of the question whether you're Palestinian or Israeli. But if the world, I'm not asking the world to turn a blind eye to the situation. If they want to judge us, that's fine. But in accordance to your own set of values, there is no equivalence. Especially not after you see these really horrors and evil and what they did that I truly, it's quite difficult to think about it as human beings. So what we are doing now, it's not revenge. I'm not speaking out of rage or emotion, even though since October 7, I'm emotional and I'm angry and I'm sad. But this is about creating a better future, not only to Israelis, but also to Palestinians. Those that are asking now for a ceasefire are condemning Israelis and Palestinians for another rounds and rounds and rounds of violence. So part of those that are asking for ceasefire are naive enough to think that, okay, they killed them, they killed us, so it's even, let's stop. And those that are just trying to keep Hamas in place, and this is, and this will not bring a better future, and therefore a ceasefire that is not connected just, maybe there's a need to do something for the hostages, a ceasefire as ending this round, no way. We cannot afford it. We tried. You know, Biden said that we need to learn from the US experience. I'm saying we are learning from our own experience. We tried it, ceasefires. It didn't work. And the price that we've paid is enormous. It's unacceptable. So really enough is enough.
By the way, Israel agreed to enter today 100 trucks. Today, 100 trucks entered.
Yes, no, as I said,
in a wartime. This is
our responsibility is to enable third parties to supply the humanitarian needs. And we are doing it not only in times of war, in times where babies and children are being kept as hostages without Red Cross seeing them. So I don't think that, speaking about humanitarian needs, so we have also some humanitarian needs to our own peoples there.
Yeah, we have two. I know you have to run to some other interviews, so if you have time for two quick questions. The first is, what do you think about the future of Israel's economy in the next year or two? And then we have another question about, before you leave us, about I think is in America, many of us know the facts that you've said, pulling out from Gaza and everything else that you mentioned. How do we convey the story here in America? What can we do to share a very uphill battle?
Okay.
People don't want to accept facts that are.
Yeah. What is okay? First, about Israel's economy. In the last 75 years, we had different rounds of wars, and I remember, I was asked about my feeling now. I remember myself as a child before the 6 Days War, watching my parents worry, and later as a teenager in Yom Kippur War, thinking that this is the end of Israel, and now we are in a national trauma. Israel passed all this and has a very strong economy. It doesn't mean that it will not influence its economy, but it also depends how much time it takes. And it's too early to say. But of course, it's a challenge. And speaking about the narratives, the different narratives, what worries me the most is that I feel that people don't want to hear about truth anymore. I had a discussion today. I tried to convince to share more horror pictures from the massacre. And because I feel that people when Queen Rania says something about she doesn't believe these stories, or Hanan Ashrawi, who is a member of the legitimate PA, saying something about beheading and rape and this nonsense. So I don't know what to say anymore. I entered today to the Twitter account of Susan Sarandon, an actor that we truly like. You should enter. Retweeting those saying that it didn't exist. It's unbelievable. And the narrative is, and not to, I need to mention the Secretary General of the United Nations, an organization that was established under the vow of never again. And he knows that the occupation is not in Gaza. Yes, we have problems in the West Bank, and yes, you can criticize Israel for what's happening in the West Bank. It's not fine, but I can understand it, okay? And yes, we didn't solve the conflict. Unfortunately, I negotiated twice. But you cannot directly or indirectly understand this barbaric, acts that they did in and therefore I'm thinking about it. I'm truly thinking what to do with this. I had also Sacha Baron Cohen called me today, and we are trying to see how how it's not explaining, it's more about feeling that people will see this and understand that the story of, when we are looking at this conflict, especially now, we feel that we are the Davids and this is the Goliath. And the world is looking at the conflict, it's from Google Earth point of view, and they see us as the Goliaths and them as the poor Davids. And it is true that Israel is a very strong country, and Israel is, even after these horrific days, Israel is a very strong country. Don't forget it for a minute. We are vulnerable, yes, but Israel is a strong country. But they cannot understand that this situation, it's not Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's Hamas-Jews. It's a different conflict that should be measured in a different way, and we need to work to spread this message.
Well, I think we realize we're all in it together and in figuring out the message and how do we get it into this very different digital age. I think one last question, if we can. What can this is a question from one of our guests, what can American Jews who want to support the personal struggles but the political power struggles do now? What more can we do? I mean, donations are flowing in, but do you have thoughts on more focus?
No, I think that what you're doing is terrific, supporting. It's not even about financial support. I mean, it's part of it, but it shows that you care, that we are really one people that is facing this threat. It is important. And maybe I was not thinking about it, but since you raised also this question of, I hate this word, asbara, but what to do with convincing the others, maybe this is something that we should work together, thinking together, and investing also efforts in doing it, and doing it quickly, because my feeling is that we are losing it. It turned like this. After 2 days of sympathetic support, now it's different, and I highly appreciate the standing of the United States and this administration. Really, it's amazing. And also, of course, Britain and France. And so the leadership is with us, but I'm afraid that in some parts of the world, when the leadership will face, the politicians will face demonstration, they will decide to step aside to the wrong side of history.
Yeah. Well, we are deeply appreciative for your time in these extremely busy days. And I think everybody will see you later tonight on CNN and know that we had this, private moment with you. And, these are going to be ongoing discussions, and we are here. And
one of our viewers asked a question that we didn't put in front of Tzipi, who will be the next prime minister? Maybe Tzipi Livni, who knows? We need maybe to test the case again of a woman prime minister. Yes, maybe, who knows?
But speaking about women in power,
yes,
if there is something good that came out,
it's very important to really
the brave women in the army, the soldiers. I think that nobody will ask now, what's the use of having women in the Israeli army?
So we will ask now if women can sing in front of men. That question will be made, abortion and other stuff that will be asked. But women soldiers, the question,
they are really heroes. Amazing.
Tzipi, thank you very much. And I know that you have to run to German television, CNN. Toda for your time.
Thank you very much.
Guys, so would like to say the prayer for the state of Israel, the soldiers and the hostages. So who is running?
Thank you very much. And we would love to have Rabbi Irwin Zolowitz of the Community Synagogue in New York say the prayer for Israel.
Eloheinu Matir Asurim, protector and rock and redeemer of Israel. Bless Medinat Yisrael, which marks the dawning of hope for our redemption. Shield it beneath the wings of your steadfast love. Spread over it the shelter of your peace. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. May the spark of your spirit inspire the actions of its president, prime minister, officials, judges, and advisors. They may follow the path of righteousness, of liberty, and freedom. Strengthen the hands of those who build and protect the holy land and grant them salvation and life. Grant peace to this land, everlasting joy to its inhabitants. Be near to all the people of Israel throughout the lands of the dispersion. Plant within their hearts the love of Zion, and may those of our people who are so inspired come to Yerushalayim, Ircha, which bears your name. Spread your spirit over the inhabitants of our land. Uproot hatred, jealousy, and evil. Plant in our hearts love and peoplehood, peace and friendship, and speedily fulfill the vision of your prophet. Lo yasagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmadu od milchama. And let us say,
Amen.
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 Irwin, toda rabba for your love, support for the state of Israel, for Beit Daniel. Toda, Irwin.
And we'll have Rabbi Gadia Sadan, our very own, say a prayer for the hostages now. And feel free to join in English and in Hebrew.
So I'll read it in Hebrew and then we'll read it in English as well. And this is a prayer that was written by Rabbi Gilad Kariv, whom I'm sure you all know. משברך אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם ושרה, יצחק ורבקה, יעקב, לאה ורחל, ואת לוחמנו יהושע, דוד ויהודה, דבורה, יעל ויהודית. הוא יברך את שבויי צהל וחייליו הנהדרים והנהדרות, ואת אזרחי ישראל הנתונים והנתונות, בשביה ובצרה. יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני צבאות, שתפדה נפשם משבי, ותחזירם במהרה לארצם, ויקוים בהם הכתוב, קול ברמה נשמע, נהי בכי תמרורים, רחל מבכה על בניה, מענה להנחם על בניה, כי איננו. כה אמר אדוני, מנעי קולך מבכי, ועינייך מדמעה, כי יש שכר לפעולתך נאום אדוני, ושבו מארץ אויב. אמן, כן יהי רצון.
Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Sarah, Yitzchak, and Rivka, Yaakov, Leah, Rachel, Bilha, Zilpah, and our warriors Joshua, David, Judah, Dvorah, Yael, and Yehudit. May he bless the captured IDF soldiers and the many kidnapped citizens, men, women, and young children held in painful captivity in Gaza. May it be your will, Adonai Tzvaot, God of hosts, to rescue and redeem these souls and return them swiftly to their families on the land of Israel.
Guys,
As it is written,
I am leaving you for a second because there is alarm. Can you hear that?
Oh,
This
Go,
is the life
go.
in Tel Aviv. This is the fourth that I hear today. I'm going
We'll
to
keep
the
going.
room.
we'll
So
continue,
you
Mayor.
can stay and wait for a second and hear
Go.
the boom through my computer. You open the window, you'll hear the boom in a second, and you'll understand what is going on here. This is the siren. Probably you can hear it. I'm going to my shelter. Rabbi Galia, run to your shelter too.
Go, Mayor.
The others are not here. We have a minute and a half. So this is that I have.
okay.
The second probably hear a boom. Wait.
It brings all the more meaning to the words as we say them. May those who have been fallen into captivity be brought back to their families in the land of Israel. As it is written, thus said Adonai, a cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Thus says Adonai, restrain your voice from weeping, your eyes from shedding tears, for there is a reward for your labor, declares Adonai, they shall return from the enemy's land.
Thank you, Josh. And we have our final prayer for the soldiers in the IDF. And Larry Wolf, who is a board member of Friends of the Daniel Centers and treasurer, will say that for us. Larry?
May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, bless the soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces and all who stand guard, protecting our people. May the Holy Blessed One protect them and save them from all affliction, from all sickness and injury, and may God grant blessing and wisdom to their actions. May the words of the prophets be fulfilled through them, that they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And all shall sit under their vine and under their fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. I don't know if you heard the booms, but we heard them here in Tel Aviv. This is how we live in the last few weeks. Again, thank you very much for
Mayor?
taking. Yeah, you did.
I thought, I know we're past 3, so obviously we understand if people have to jump off, but if people would like to stay, and maybe you could tell about what the days are like at Mishkanot Ruth, where we're housing the 90 families and soldiers. Give a little bit about the day and what our team is doing for that.
One short story about Mishkanot. We just, I think, released yesterday a short interview in Hebrew with a woman called Rosie.
We said
one of the refugees, and again we say refugees in Israel today, a word that we thought that won't be part of the Jewish vocabulary anymore for Jews. So she's a refugee from Sderot. She finished to pay for her kitchen, a new kitchen. She said, "I built a new kitchen after my house was destroyed 2 years ago in the round that happened 2 years ago, and I wanted to have a kitchen like you, the guys in Tel Aviv, have. So I spent a lot of money to build a new kitchen." The kitchen was destroyed Monday, the day that she finished to pay the new kitchen. She is there with 85 people, babies from 3 years until men over 90 that is there. People that left the city of Sderot, all the citizens of Sderot left the city. As many other that left the area around Gaza in the north. Tel Aviv is packed with refugees. The city of Eilat has more than 60,000 refugees, Jewish refugees. The city of Eilat that was attacked today twice by the Houthis from Teman. You understand that we're talking about something that is more than we, even in our worst dream, ever. So this is the life. Mishkanot, the guys there, getting from us shelter, food, and we play with the kids, we bring shows, singers, whatever we can give them. But it took most of them 2 weeks to recover from the scene that they saw. You understand that Rosie, the women that I'm talking about, said to me, Saturday when it started, my son said, "Mama, there's people shooting in the street, soldiers are shooting in the street." And I said, "Oh, can't happen. Oh, come to the shelter." She looked from the window and she saw the terrorists now next to their homes, shooting back and forth later with the policemen there. Those people had a terrible experiences. Is nothing compared to those who were in the kibbutzim in Gaza that were penetrated. So we're trying to give them a little bit of humanity, a little bit of warm feeling. We're talking about months. They won't return in the next few months. Places like Sderot and Ofakim and the kibbutzim are destroyed. B, people are very much afraid. The fear is a major issue today in Israel. You have to understand that. The anger, the frustration. And I'm very happy with the civil society in Israel. As Tzipi Livni said, civil society in Israel is doing so much. We have more volunteers that is needed in the place there in Mishkanot. Every day we bring them presents that were presented by different organizations, different people. There are really hugs, a lot of love. And this is one place. I believe that it happens in every other place in Israel. The issue is not just what is going on right now in the war. The issue is what will happen after the war. As I try to talk with Tzipi Livni, what will happen with Gaza, what will happen with the Israeli economy, and what type of Israel will have. And your role is to help Israel in this trouble and in this time, but to help us to prepare ourselves for the next step, Israel after the war. What type of Israel? And we need the spirit of Reform Judaism, the spirit that Beit Daniel and other reform organizations in Israel brings. And we need to build this right now. because the public wants to hear, want to feel the hug and the spirit and the energy. You see how many people are coming to our services, how many people join to our classes. We continue to teach conversion classes in Hebrew, Russian, Spanish. I forgot something, we continue to do our bar mitzvah classes. I have this Shabbat 2 bar mitzvah. Guys, each one of those bar mitzvah will be somehow connected to the sirens, day before. Guys, this is Israel today. It's so important for us to get your hug, support, and love. At the same time, as I discussed with Tzipi Livni, we feel in Israel that you are on attack. And it's not just about Israel. It's about who you are and who we are, Jews. This is what we hear. This is what we feel. The call against Israel is not just a call against Israel. It's a call about Jewish existence in New York, in London, in Paris. When they mark last night 80 shops and homes of Jews in Paris, this is not just about Israel. This is about who they are, Jews in Paris. So we are in the same boat, and it's so important to us to see so many of you today. And again, on behalf of Daniel Centers, our board, our members, and those who are staying with us in Mishkenot, soldiers and people that were evacuated from Sderot, the people are getting a shelter in our place in Beit Daniel, a place where people can play, kids can play in a time of you just heard the siren. It's so important. It's so important. Rabbi Galia, do you want to say something? You are here. Those who doesn't know Galia, she is really...
Everyone can unmute themselves now.
So, yeah, now you can mute yourself, unmute. This is a time.
I just wonder, maybe I missed it. Yeah. Did we introduce David to everyone?
Not today, but David, say hello to everybody.
Hi, David. David, say hello. David is our chairperson.
Yeah, people knows him. David is our chairperson. Rabbi Galia is working for us. She's really the spirit running the conversion classes, the Bar Mitzvah program, and many other stuff at Beit Daniel and Daniel Centers. Guys, any questions?
Is there any question really quick? And we know it's past 3, well past 3.
So if not, I'm so happy that we had the privilege to introduce to you today Tzipi Livni. Again, a friend of Beit Daniel, a friend of mine.